Okay, to start with, we're going to come down here to the bottom left hand side of our screen and look for this little icon. This is the start icon. I'm going to click on that, and we're looking for this paint program. Now if it's not here in this menu, what you can do is go to search program and files and just put your cursor in there and type paint, and you should find it right here at the top. Left click on that and we'll open up into the paint program. Now one of the first things we want to do is save our work, and so we're going to come up here and your teacher will tell you exactly where you need to save your work, but just for this instance I'm going to show you where I'm saving mine. I'm going to click on save, and it automatically puts it into my pictures. Now again, that might not be where you need to store your pictures, but for this video I'm going to store them in pictures. And so I go to Untitled, and I want to make sure Ping is selected. So there's variations that you can save as. Let's go ahead and save it as a Ping. That's a great file to work with. We're going to select Untitled. We'll call this Radial Design 1. Now we're going to be working very simply in Radial Design 1, getting you used to all the tools. Now the first thing we're going to need to do after we've saved it, and you can see the name here, Radial Design 1, we've saved it successfully. The first thing we're going to do is resize the canvas. We need this canvas, which is now very big, to be a square canvas. And so I'd like you to look at your ruler bars. Now some of you might not have your ruler bars turned on over here. If you don't see these ruler bars, we're going to need to go to View and click on View, click on Rulers. If that's unclicked, you won't see them. When it's clicked, you'll see them. Click on Rulers and then head back to the Home tab. And again, notice these rulers. This tells you how many pixels in each of these sections. So this is 100 pixels, 200, 300, 400, 500. So what we're going to do, we can pick anywhere from maybe 525 or 550. We want to make the square that we're going to create as large as possible. We're going to turn this white canvas into a square, and you'll see why here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and turn that into a square. How do you turn this canvas into a square? We just need to go up here to where it says Resize, left click on Resize, and you'll notice it says percentage or pixels. We want to select pixels. Now this will tell us that it's 1227 pixels in this horizontal dimension. So if we look at this, we look over here, 1227. 631 means it's way down here, 631. What we want to do is make it so we can see it at least. We have about 500 here, so I'm going to say about 550. 550. Now your computer, you may have a lot more pixels visible. I'm using a laptop and it's a smaller screen size, so you may have a lot more that you can see. So 500 might not work for you, but you make it the biggest you can possibly make it. The reason you want to make it as big as possible is because you want to make sure you have it makes it easier to work on. Now another thing we want to do before we go further is click off maintain aspect ratio. In other words, we don't want it to be a rectangular screen. We want to make and decide the pixels ourselves. So we're going to put 550 and type in the vertical box 550, and we'll see if that works. It should be an even number if possible. Alright, and that looks pretty good. That looks like we're going to be able to work in it. And again, if you're using a bigger screen size, a bigger canvas size is easily available. Another thing you can do is shrink the screen. By clicking minimize the ribbon, that will give you some added room for your pixels. But for this video, I'm just going to keep the screen out so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Now the first thing we want to do, since this is a radial design, we want to start with a circle. So I'm going to left click on the oval tool here, and I'm going to decide on the size of my line, and I would say you could use a 2 or a 3 size line. I wouldn't go with a 1 because you'll have to redraw a whole bunch, and that's a little bit flimsy of a line. I would say at least 2, maybe even 3 point. Actually, this says 5 pixels. So I'm going to go down here and pick out that 2, that second line thickness. And I'm going to take my cursor, stick it in the top left corner, and you'll notice if I move this around, I'm not certain that I'm going to get a circle. So we want to make sure this is an exact circle, otherwise our design will fail. So to make sure it's an exact circle, what I need to do is hold the shift key, and notice the difference. When I hold the shift key, I can move my cursor anywhere and it maintains the shape of a circle. So again, this is without the shift key, and then with the shift key. What we want is with the shift key. I'm going to bring my cursor down to the opposite corner so that my circle is touching here and here. Alright, when you have that, now notice you got to be careful here because my cursor is now turned into a movable option, and it means I can move this entire circle. So I don't want to move it. I'm just going to left click once. Uh-oh, I just moved it. If you do that like I did, hit Control Z. I don't want to move it, but again, holding the shift key, drag out my circle to the corner, making sure my edges are touching. And then I'm going to click off of the screen. That will make sure that we have all 4 points touching where we need them. Now, the reason I had you draw this using a square canvas was so that we would have these little points of reference. You see this little square and this little square here? Those become the halfway points, so we can easily adjust and find our halfway point on the circle. Otherwise we'd be guessing or having to measure it using this ruler tools, which I guess isn't so bad, but this is much easier. So I'm going to now switch to my straight line tool, make sure I have the second line thickness selected, and I'm going to begin right at this square, just to the left of the square, holding the shift key. Now again, the line tool is the same. If I let go of the shift key, you'll notice I can move it in any direction. Well, we need to, for this design, keep it straight, bring it across, let go with our left mouse button, and then let go with the shift key. If you find, let me just show you, if you find that when you drag across your line, you're holding your shift key, and then you let go of your shift key first, you'll notice it switches. So again, hold that shift key so it stays straight, let go of your left mouse button first, then let go of the shift key and you should be all set. And again, notice the line is now selected as indicated by these 2 little white squares. So we don't want to move it yet, because if you move it, you can actually move that line. So go somewhere else off the screen perhaps and just left click once. That will deselect that line. Alright, we're going to do the same thing here, and notice we have a white square here at the bottom to help us position our cursor. So we're going to position our cursor right at the edge of our canvas, hold the shift key and drag up. Again, let go of the left mouse button and then the shift key, and you should be all set. Okay, so now we've got a circle centered on our canvas, and we've got it divided into quadrants. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to have you do is, again, with the line tool, we're going to start from the center and build outward. We're going to left click, hold the shift key, and we're going to drag across. And I'm holding the shift key because if I wasn't holding the shift key, these could end up any direction. I need to hold that shift key and drag it out. Okay, and then left click. This is something that's new to Windows 7 Paint, so you always have to be aware. That took me some getting used to. I always have to be aware that I have to click once after I've drawn my line so that it doesn't continue to move with my cursor. So I'm going to drag out a line here. Again, left click. Drag out a line here. Left click. Drag out a line here. And then left click somewhere else. And again, we've divided it now into 8 sections. Alright, we're just going to continue with this, just getting used to using these tools and creating sort of a simple design. So I'm going to start, actually I could start here at the top, and in this case if I hold my shift key, you'll notice that it brings it perfectly from corner to corner. That means my circle is a perfect circle and everything seems to be lining up. if I hadn't drawn a perfect circle, this would not happen. If you have an oval shape, these points are not going to line up when you hold the shift key. So that's kind of a way to check your circle. Notice how that fits almost perfectly. This line I don't like. It doesn't fit exactly. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo. And I'm going to start from here, hold that shift key, bring it down, and then watch what I'm going to do. Let go. I'm just going to hit the arrow key once to nudge it over. And that's more like it. That's what I'm looking for. So again, with it selected, I hit the arrow key once to nudge my line over. Okay, so just to show you again, if I hit the arrow key, I can nudge that line over 1 pixel at a time to get it exactly where I want it. That looks good. So I left click off, and again, that's one of the more powerful tools we have now in Windows 7 Paint program as opposed to the other XP Windows Paint program. Again, let's just take and connect these points now. Let go, left click. So left click, shift, let go. If it needs to be nudged over a little, nudge it with your arrow key, then left click when you like the positioning of it, and that's perfect. Again, I'm holding the shift key as I go. Alright, and that's pretty much a simple design. Now what we're going to do, since this was our original square, our canvas here, this was our original square, now we've drawn a smaller square in here, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw another circle and repeat that inside. So we need to select the oval tool, put our position our cursor perfectly within this section, and again, without holding a shift key, I could mess this up. So I'm going to hold my shift key to keep that constrained to a perfect circle and bring that down. When I'm happy with how that fits, again, I'm going to left click off of the screen. Now my circle fits very nicely. If I check all the points, it's a little off here, but it's not that bad. It looks really good. Alright, so again, then I go back to my line tool, and I'm going to start at this point now and do what I did before. Hold the shift key, left click, hold the shift key, left click, hold the shift key, left click, hold that shift key, left click. Very good. We're going to do this again from here, from this cross section. Kind of get that in place. Hold the shift key. Holding the shift key. Left click. Hold the shift key. Left click to let go of the line so that you're not moving it by accident. Okay. Very good. So you could continue to do this and make it look like a spider web of some kind all the way down. I'll do this 1 or 2 more times. Hold this, get the oval tool, starting in this corner, holding the shift key, drag to this opposite corner of the square. Make sure I've got it placed where I want it. Then left click off the screen. And again, I'll try one more time. And if you need to, you can actually zoom in. You can use this zoom tool here, the magnifier, and you can actually zoom in and then use your line tool to do what we did before. Again, hold my shift key, left click, oops, Control Z to get rid of that little dot there. Hold my shift key, left click. At this point, I'll draw one more circle and be done. Now I can zoom back out. by coming down here to the bottom right, minus to 100%. Alright, so now I can see what I'm doing here, and we're going to start to engage the color now. For the coloring part, we're going to use the paint bucket tool. So let's go ahead and save our work. Since we've drawn this, we want to make sure we save, and at this point, since we see the name here, we know we've saved it to our directory wherever we're supposed to save that, and then I click on save, so it's made sure that I've saved my work. Now I'm going to come up here and click on the paint bucket tool, and at this point I can edit some colors, or I can play around with some colors. But I'm going to show you really quickly what you need to know. First of all, this has come from years of experience. If you're going to use black to paint your design, I want you to notice what happens. When you put the same black color that you use to draw the lines for this framework, when you put the same black color in there, the computer does not recognize the difference between this shape that you want to be black and these lines that you want to be black. Let me try to illustrate this. So for instance, once I draw this or I color this in black, if I decide I don't want that to be black anymore, but I want it to be green, notice what happens. Everything the computer recognizes as having that black color has now turned to green. Now, there's nothing wrong with that if you want to keep your framework as green, but let me show you how to work around that. We're going to hit Control Z 2 times just to undo that. If I want to use black as my color, as one of my colors in this design, what I have to do is go to Edit the Colors, and you'll see it gives us this RGB value, red, green, blue value of 000. If I take this arrow and just left click it and move it up, I can move it up to almost white. But here's what I want to tell you. If you want to keep it somewhat black, all you have to do is change the number. So if I change it to 777, it's still going to look black as I add it to my custom colors, and I click OK. Now here it is. If I left click on it and then use my paint bucket, it still appears to be black. However, now if I go back and change my mind, the computer recognizes the different RGB values, so it does not connect that black section to all of my framework, which is also black. So again, just be aware of that. If you do want to use black in your design, you will need to change the RGB values, and that's here in Edit Colors right there. Alright, so at this point what you're going to want to do is what we call alternate colors. That means you go from one color to the next. Now, an easy way to do that is to simply pick a color 1 and then select color 2 and pick another color. So let's say blue and pink. So we have blue and pink. Now, whenever I left click with the paint bucket tool selected, I'll get a blue. Whenever I right click, I'll get a pink. Blue, pink, blue, pink, blue, pink, alternating all the way around. And so as we move in, I might want to pick 2 more colors to do these triangles. So maybe I pick a gold, and then for color 1 I pick a red, and then again left click, right click, left click, right click, left click, right click, left click, right click, all the way around. And so let's say we want to return to our original colors, our blue and our pink, to maybe go in here and put another blue and another pink over here. Now, how do we make sure we get the exact same blue? What if you get kind of misled by which blue you picked, or you couldn't find the right pink? Well, I'm going to show you another little trick. It's called the color picker tool. So if I left click on the color picker tool and then hover it over either one of these colors, like the blue, watch what happens in my color box right here. If I left click, it turns that color blue. So all I have to do, it automatically loads it, so I can actually just come in here, and every one of these that's blue, I can add a blue. Okay, directly across from my blue color. Now if I want pink, I would just simply left click on the color picker tool and then right click on the pink, and the right click adds the color number 2. So then I would right click, again, you get the idea. But that, if you ever lose track of the colors you're using and you want to pull a color from the existing palette that you have, again, use the color picker tool. It will automatically load it for you and you can use it from there. Alright, so I'm just going to color the rest of this using alternating colors. Now one thing, if you see a little spot that's not getting colored, I'm going to show you how to zoom in and hit that. Take your zoom tool, and if you zoom in, you can see these small pixels right here where my magnifying glass is. Right there, those aren't getting hit. If that bothers you, then what you can do is just simply take the bucket tool, but after you've zoomed in, and then make sure you touch those up. Oops. Control Z will undo if you hit it accidentally, like I just did. I might have to zoom in a little more, make it a little easier to hit. And again, my bucket tool, still got my blue loaded, so I hit left click. Oops, Control Z. It's a little bit tight in there, but there it is. So again, if something like that happens to you and it bothers you, that's what you can do, is just use that zoom tool. Then of course you'd have to zoom back out to 100% and then pick up where you left off. And again, I may want to switch colors in here, or may want to use the original colors. I think I want to switch these colors though. I'm going to use, since I use blue and pink, I'm going to stick with more of an orange. Let me show you how to change the colors. In case you want colors that you don't see in this palette, you can use this edit color box, and you come in here and you can actually drag this little cursor around and put it into colors that you want to use. You can also lighten the color or darken its value. So again, you can use this to lighten the color or darken it, this to select the range that you're looking for. So if I want an orange, maybe a lighter orange, something like this. And you can see it change as I move it. Something more like a peach. Add that to the custom colors, click OK, and here it is. And then maybe springtime green. My original color. I left click. So more of a blue, pink, green, orange, almost like a spring mix. I'm going to redo these here. And you can play around till you get the colors that you want. Then switch. So that I'm alternating each time. Green, 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 pink, peach, peach, green, peach, green, peach, green, peach, green, peach, green, peach, etc. Then I'll pick a color for my outside. Maybe just a light blue to kind of lighten it all up. Alright, there it is, and I push save, and I've got my Radial Design 1 completed. Alright, after this one, you can go on and try Radial Design 2.